So I hear from a ton of people looking at moving to Spokane or investing their money in Spokane. And one of the questions that I'm getting quite frequently is, sure, it looks like a nice place to be, it looks like a ton of stuff to do, but what's the underlying economy like? Is it a good place for me to move my family to or invest my money in? My name is Phil Wells, I'm a real estate agent here in Spokane, and in this video we're going to take a look at the economy here. We're going to take a look at 5 key factors. We're going to look at the entrepreneurial climate, human capital, quality of life, dedication to progress, and some future prospects too. So let's get into it. Looking first at the entrepreneurial climate. So why did I put entrepreneurial climate first, and what do I mean by it? What I mean by this, does Spokane have a climate that allows small businesses and entrepreneurs to thrive and to flourish, or does it wrap up their efforts in red tape? And why is it so important that I put this first? Well, according to the Chamber of Commerce, nearly half the US workforce is employed by a small business of some kind. And according to Forbes, nearly 30% of people identify as self-employed. I'm sure there's some overlap between being self-employed, working for a small business, and working for a large corporation, but I'm sure you get the point here. Having a climate that encourages people to create a business and employ people is vital to an economy. So let's look at that climate. There's no income tax in the state of Washington, and there's no corporate tax, which is great. However, Washington doesn't let you get away that easily. People and businesses that conduct their business in Washington are subject to a business and occupation tax. And this has different rates depending on your industry. So for example, I'm self-employed in the service industry, so I pay a 1.5% tax on all gross commissions that I get. But one thing to be aware of, there are a number of tax credits out there that can help offset this cost. Looking beyond taxes at other expenses, Spokane is generally affordable. The cost of living is below the national average. It has competitive labor costs. There is a good amount of commercial real estate available, and utility costs are relatively low. Just one note on labor costs, the minimum wage increased on January 1st of this year to $13.69. In terms of red tape that you'll have to navigate if you do set up a business here, the city of Spokane requires you to have a business license to trade within the city limits, and Spokane Valley is the same way. From what I saw, this looks like a pretty streamlined process with reasonable fees. The reason I say this is because the city of Spokane publishes a list of newly registered businesses that week, and it shows dozens of new businesses popping up all the time. In terms of encouraging small businesses and having a stake in their success, the city of Spokane does look like it has a lot of resources out there for small business. Right now, these resources are aimed at getting small businesses back on track after the 2020 lockdown. In terms of the overall business climate itself, there are a ton of groups, guilds, and meetups available for all different industries around Spokane and around the inland northwest too. Overall, it does feel like Spokane is a business-friendly city, and you get a sense for this when you visit the area to shop or to eat and drink. There's a ton of independent coffee shops, loads of different bars and restaurants, boutique stores, experience-based businesses, and new businesses popping up all the time. So from the looks of things, you don't need to have a big chain stores compliance team just to set up shop in Spokane. Looking now at human capital. What do I mean by human capital? Well, what I mean is, what does the workforce look like? What are people generally doing for employment? What incentives are out there for the workforce to better their employment prospects and things like that. I'm not going to get too into demographics in this video because as a realtor I have to be careful about what I say due to fair housing laws, but I will include a link in the description where you can get information on age ranges in the area, household incomes, education standards, and all that good stuff. Looking now at the major industries here in Spokane. Spokane has a lot going on in terms of industry with a strong emphasis on healthcare and life sciences, aerospace engineering, advanced manufacturing, logistics, education and research, agribusiness, and professional services too. In terms of major employers in the area, Fairchild Air Force Base is the largest single-site employer in the area. Other major employers include large hospitals like Providence Healthcare and Deaconess Hospital, universities like Gonzaga University and Eastern Washington University, etc. There are some smaller market cap publicly traded companies that are headquartered in Spokane. Major companies like Amazon have a presence here too. Amazon is currently in the process of opening a second facility here in Spokane, bringing an additional 1,000 jobs to Spokane Valley, on top of the 4,000 jobs they brought to the area with their fulfillment center near the airport. That also means we're starting to get packages here in Spokane really quickly, even without having to have an Amazon Prime account. The hospitality industry plays a large role in the Spokane economy too, and it took a major hit during the 2020 lockdown. Northern Quest Resort and Casino is a good example of a large employer in the area in the hospitality industry. Continuing with human capital and looking at education in the area. Spokane is home to a ton of universities and colleges that are desirable enough to attract people from all over the country. And while they add to the economy in and of themselves, they also produce an educated workforce. There is expansion and investment happening in this sector too. For example, there is a joint venture between the University of Washington and Gonzaga University facilities to set up a new medical school here in the University District. Okay, moving on to look at quality of life. So it's important that people that contribute to the economy have a good quality of life when they're here. So what does Spokane offer in terms of quality of life? Going straight to the most important issue for a lot of people, healthcare. The cost of healthcare in Spokane is below the national average. I think this is because the healthcare industry in Spokane is pretty large. There's a lot of competition that keeps prices low, but you're still able to get the care you need. I have helped people move to Spokane specifically to have access to the hospitals, and I know that people travel here from the surrounding regions just to use the hospitals here. In terms of overall cost of living, and I do have a separate video on this, I will link in the top of this video, and I'd encourage you to check out. Overall cost of living in Spokane is cheaper than the national average, although with rising property prices this might not be the case for very long. Having said that though, the median property prices in Spokane are only slightly ahead of where they are nationally. So while everywhere is getting more expensive together, Spokane doesn't seem to be catapulting too far ahead. In terms of recreation, Spokane is a city that embraces its natural assets exceptionally well. The recreation and leisure industry here in Spokane is very large and diverse. It's possible to go enjoy everything from skiing, paddleboarding, cycling, mountain biking, sailing, yoga, and countless other activities too. There are also a ton of major venues in the area for music events, festivals, concerts, and things like that. With new venues like Podium, which is going to be near Riverfront Park, that's coming online soon. In addition, there are a series of annual events that Spokane puts on throughout the year, which attract a lot of attention and are a good time too. In terms of getting around the city, Spokane is a very car-dependent city with not much by way of public transport. Public transport in Spokane is limited to a bus network. The road network in Spokane is outdated and does need an overhaul to accommodate an expanding city. The airport here has a limited number of direct routes, but it is expanding those routes. American Airlines, for example, just announced a new route to Chicago. In addition, the airport itself is expanding, and the airport has plenty of room to grow further. The next thing I wanted to look at is Spokane dedicated to its own progress. Does the city actually want to grow and develop? Spokane regularly puts effort into making things look nice. Just look at all the construction that's been going on around Riverfront Park for the last 5 years. The city has spent tens of millions of dollars making that area one of the coolest downtown environments anywhere. It honestly feels like a theme park when you're there. The Centennial Trail runs right through Riverfront Park, and it's impossible to go there and not see people running, cycling, walking around, just enjoying life. Another example of this is the Kendall Yards neighborhood. Kendall Yards was the site of the old railways, but it sat vacant for about 3 decades, until in 2010 it was developed into what's now one of the coolest urban spaces in Spokane. In terms of housing, swanky apartment buildings are going up, and new construction is happening in terms of single-family homes that are pushing the boundaries of Spokane further and further out. One thing Spokane really has going for it is the luxury of space. This was evident when Boeing wanted a 1 million square foot manufacturing facility. In response to this, the city built some rail infrastructure to try and entice Boeing to take up residency here in Spokane. From what I understand, Boeing isn't moving here anymore, but the fact that Spokane could put a good, strong business case together shows me that Spokane wants to grow and it wants to attract world-class investment. As you can tell, Spokane has a lot going for it, but right now it's not a primary market. What it does have though is a relatively diverse, albeit mid-sized economy. A ton of land, stunning natural beauty, a well-educated workforce, and the potential to grow into an epic place. My forecast, and this is only my opinion, is that the next decade is going to be great for Spokane, and it's already off to a good start. That's it for this video. If you gained from this video, please give me a like and subscribe. That really helps me out. Like I said, my name is Phil Wells. If you have any real estate needs in Spokane, then please reach out to me and I'd be honored to work with you. Until the next one, thanks for watching.